In this class we're going to deal with problem research objectives. And we're going to start by looking at problem definition. A problem is any situation which requires further investigation. That's all a problem is. It's a situation that requires further investigation. Decisions made on judgments may not always turn out to be correct. The problem may not be important enough to justify substantial time or money or effort, and therefore decisions have to be made about problems as to whether the problems should be investigated or solved or simply allowed to let run. It depends critically on the amount of resources that the solution requires. Clear, precise and to-the-point statements of the problem itself provides clues for the solution. So often when a problem arises, writing down the problem precisely, looking at the nature of the problem, provides the clues to its solution. But the problem, if it's absorbing resources of the business, for example, if the problem is causing problems for, say, efficiency, or it's causing extra costs, those costs must be balanced against the cost of solving the problem. Sometimes a problem may be recognized and simply allowed to continue because that's the most efficient thing to do. On the other hand, a vague, general or inaccurate statement of the problem only confuses the researcher and can lead to wrong problems being researched and useless results generated. So the first and most important part in dealing with any problem is to understand the nature of the problem. Be precise and to the point. And a problem which is clearly identified may suggest its own solution. But if it's a vague and general and inaccurate statement about the problem, then this could be misleading. It could cause further wastage of resources in trying to solve a problem that's not properly understood. So the big issue in problem resolution is to state the problem, identify the problem, and be very precise. Now let's move to research objectives. In any study, in any research activity, the research objectives form the core of the study. The objectives address the purpose of the project. The purpose of the project must be clearly understood and stated, and the research objectives will attempt to address that purpose. Research, generally speaking, facilitates decision making. That's one of the major benefits of research. It identifies a problem and then attempts to determine a solution and show the ways in which the solution may be implemented. So it's facilitating decision making. And of course, the research will also be looking for best practice. It'll be looking for the ways in which the solution may be implemented in the most efficient manner possible. So it's looking to reduce the costs associated with decision making. Decision making was required because there were alternatives or because a problem was identified. Alternative methods of production, for example, a decision must be made as to which one to select. Or if a problem existed, let's say the stores in the business was not running effectively, decisions have to be made. Well, in setting out the problem and doing some research, the most efficient solution, one which reduces costs, may be determined and then implemented later. Research can also help businesses to discover opportunities, and these opportunities may lead to innovation within the business. It may lead to innovation in processes, in the way the business conducts itself, or it may lead to innovation of the product itself. But research is a valuable source of information in helping to determine what is the best practice and what's the best way forward. The general and specific objectives should be stated. And it's important to note the difference between the two. The general objectives are the broad objectives that cover the business, to reduce costs, to meet the stakeholders' requirements, to increase profitability and to grow the business. These are general statements. These are general objectives. Specific objectives may be to reduce costs in the production area of the business, or to reduce warehousing costs, or to reorganize some part of the accountancy section, or to gain more sales through a different marketing ploy. So there are specific objectives which usually focus in on some functional area of the business, and there are the general objectives which cover the whole business. Now, they can be adjusted for sequencing without changing their basic nature. It's possible to change around the timings of the objectives, when the objectives should be achieved. It may in some cases be possible to do that, in other cases it may not. It depends on the nature of the business. But by and large, a distinction should be drawn between general objectives and the more specific objectives, and they should be clear. The objectives may take the form of questions, simply asking, is this the best we can do? Is that the best way in which production should take place? What if production was reorganized and carried out in a different way? What if the stores were to do this? What if the marketing section were to look into a different market? What if? So asking questions is quite legitimate in trying to determine what the problem is and what the solution is and what research is required in order to bring the business to solving the problem, whatever problem's identified. The background material, well, include a review of the previous research or descriptions of conditions that caused the project to be authorized. Previous research is always valuable. It shows how the research was conducted, it shows what issues were brought up, it shows how the research failed or succeeded, it showed what problems were encountered by the research so that they may be anticipated and dealt with in the current research. So previous research is very valuable. It shows how the previous researchers went about the task. In a sense, it's passing on knowledge from one activity to the next. It's passing on the knowledge that was gained from previous research into the current research, and that is valuable. It may entail preliminary results from an experienced survey or from a secondary data from various sources. Preliminary results from the experience of a survey are important. When a survey is carried out, the experience of carrying out that survey is important because it's an indicator of the issues that could confront the researcher. So when a survey is conducted, it's important to capture as much information about conducting the survey as is possible. And There's also issue, of course, of looking at data and looking at sources of secondary data, for example. That's important. Secondary data may be overlooked, or sources of secondary data may not be appreciated or widely understood. So the whole experience from previous research should be taken into account, and that is important. The references from secondary data, definitions and assumptions, these should be included in the current research. And again, past research is a good indicator of the types of definitions, sources of data, the assumptions that were made. So past research, very valuable. So what we've done in this session is we've looked at a problem, or we've defined in the broadest possible terms what a problem is, and then suggested that research is important to resolve the problem. Research goes through various phases, and it needs objectives. The objectives could be general or specific, and it looks at the importance of previous research as an indicator of how problems can be solved and what sources of information are available to facilitate the current research. So that's the problem. That is why research is important, and that's what we mean by the research objectives. And that's all I'm going to do in this session, so I'm going to leave it at that and say thank you for watching.